Welcome to Eggcellent Adventures, where I, your host Reec Swiney, take a step away from my duties as a radio and TV personality and give you a first-hand look at my other love, BlackYard Chickenz and homesteading. Take a listen to conversations I have with others who are in farming, homesteading, and connected brands. And some of those conversations go a little like this.
She does say I have too much, though. She says I have too many, but I don't think I have enough.
The chicken math started mathing.
Yep, it's never ending.
I only started with like 4 laying hens. Now I have over 100 chickens and geese and quail.
So the first question we ask everybody that comes on to the Eggcellent Adventures, what was your old cluck moment?
The first thing that comes to mind is when the first time I got locked inside one of my own chicken coops.
We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Now let's see who's on this episode of Eggcellent Adventures. We're back at it, another Eggcellent Adventures live from Media Campus West. Reec right here with another special guest, Corey of Natural Born Tillers. He's also an edible landscape artiste. We're going to put it that way. Had the pleasure of meeting them. They came out to BlackYard Chickenz, came out to Swiney Farms, and we did an interview. You guys interviewed me, and it was really fun, really fun.
We put you on the hot seat. You survived.
I did. And then I got to speak with you in the CDC and different people over there about sustainable living and talking about the chickens and raising chickens and what you need for a backyard coop. But now we are grilling the tiller. So let's talk to Corey. How in the world did you come up with Natural Born Tillers? I know Ice Cube would be proud.
If Ice Cube's proud, I've done my job. I came up with Natural Born Tillers basically in a heat-induced state. I farmed for 10 years before I started the company, and I was literally dehydrated in a field, kind of brainstorming names for this thing that I wanted to start. And Natural Born Tillers just fell out, and people were like, "You're not going to do that." And then that basically made me want to say,
right,
"Of course, I'm going to do
it.
Let's go." So I've been stubbornly holding on to the name ever since.
I got you. Farming for 10 years before that. So this is the first question we usually ask people is, what is your old cluck moment? That's the moment that you knew, I'm in the chicken life. But since you are a tiller, what was the moment that you were like, okay, I'm a plant daddy?
That's a good question. I think at least transitioning out of farming, I knew I really couldn't do. I can do other things, but I was passionate about that, so I wanted to take that knowledge and put it somewhere else. But what got me into it was I don't have farming in my background as a child. Like my grandparents raised tomatoes and they had gardens, but I was going to go into law school. I just graduated from college, and I had the opportunity to hike the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, okay.
So I walked from Maine to Georgia.
Whoa, hold up. Wait. You can't breeze past certain things.
Right.
Maine,
yeah.
Maine,
all the way to the top.
You walked?
Yeah.
Okay, Forrest Gump.
Just felt like walking.
Okay.
And it was an incredible experience. But one of the most interesting things to me is not what I saw. I mean, I got a lot of nature. But it's what I saw off the trail that really impacted me. So you have all of these landscapes, all of these communities that at the time had been kind of emptied, and all the activity was by the interstates. And everything was homogenized, and everything it was heavy. It was hard to see. And then something happened around that time where I stayed at a few farms, and I'm like, wow, each one of these farms are unique. They're vibrant. There's an energy there that I found really, really compelling. And so finished the hike, and I was like, well, I'm not going to law school. and so I want to kind of like follow this path and see where it leads.
Man, that is really symbolic. You went down one path and took you down another.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
you never know
cool.
where it's going to branch you. And somebody gave me some advice at that point, was like, find what interests you and do it totally. And don't try to predict the outcome. Okay. And if you can do those 3 things, you'll find something interesting at the very least. So I've tried to keep that consistent.
That makes work not work.
Yeah. You're following your curiosity, and sometimes it's work.
Yeah.
Like
it's
hiking
work.
the trail. It was a lot of walking.
Right. Actually, you know what? It is work, but it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a burden at times.
Right.
Like if you going into an office setting and that's not where your passion is, then it can feel like a burden. Even though it's making you a living, it may feel like stress.
Yeah, it's the difference between I have to do it and I get to do it.
Yeah.
For sure. So I've been very, very lucky. When I was farming, was not financially, a huge gain, but learned so much and was able to raise my kids in that environment, which I think is really important. And then I've been able to take that knowledge and kind of bring it closer to people, which is what I do now. Yeah.
And it's awesome what you do now. I definitely want to talk about that. I want to jump back to you coming down that trail. How different was the energy on the farms than it was when you got closer to more like a city and a civilization?
Yeah. So part of it is, and people don't tell you this, but when you hike the Appalachian Trail, like every 4 or 5 days, 6, 7 days, you have to go into a town, and you're not walking into that town, you're hitchhiking. Okay. And so I'd never hitchhiked before. And so you learn to be very attuned to people, and if someone's pulling up, you're like, actually,
I'll get the next one. Right. I don't want to end up on a news story.
And so I think part of it is like how you enter those spaces. It's I was coming into unfamiliar places with an unfamiliar person, but I would come onto these farms and people would be like, come in. And if you want to do some work, you can stay here a couple days, or we've got blueberries, pick as much as you want. And just something about the variety, and then the cool thing about farming is it's so rooted in a time and a place. So those farms were growing things specific to their soil, specific to the time of year.
Gotcha.
Like no one's growing mangoes in Vermont.
Right.
And so you get a really specific view of the world when you're around a farm. And I think that's what it was for me. It's like, oh, this is authentic. This is real. It's not everything else looked similar. Oh, there's a Walmart. Oh, there's a there's a grocery store.
Got you. McDonald's. Okay.
Exactly. And this every farm I visited was just completely unique. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What was one story from the trail that you could share with us? That's a long hike, Maine to. I don't want to walk from here to the corner. So
yeah.
Were you by yourself?
I started with a brother-in-law, and he quit 2 days in.
Needless to say, he's not his favorite brother-in-law.
I'm just kidding. He's a great friend, but he was like, I can't, and he actually had an injury, so he couldn't continue. And I ended up meeting up with someone whose friend also quit a couple days in, and so we were hiking for most of the time. We basically like slowly picked up a band of people. So by the end, we had like 6 or 7 people that we were all hiking with. And yeah, it was crazy, and it was really fun. I have so many stories that I can tell. This could just be a separate podcast about the trail, but okay, I'm thinking animal related stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
Animal related podcast. So this was in Maine, and someone had warned me about this, but there's the trail goes through this area, and that there's a family of hawks that basically kept the same nesting site for years and years and years. So this is kind of legendary. They're like, there's a hawk that's going to attack you.
Oh, okay.
Because you're going to come close to its nest, and it has this defensive thing, and this is just what it does. I'm like, okay.
You're like, okay, sure.
I completely forgot about it. So I'm just walking down. It's
We've reached that part of the show where we hook you up with some insider information, and this time it's some egg side information. Y'all know what I mean. Because people ask me all the time, how do you get your chickens so fluffy and healthy and happy? And their eggs are so bright, beautiful, and they taste delicious too. I would love to dedicate all those things to me coming in and having a great time in that chicken coop every day and shaking it up with those ladies, but the fact is it comes from a healthy and balanced diet of Purina's Layina. That's the brand we use. Whether you've got laying hens and you want to go with the Purina Layina plus omega-3, or you got a bunch of baby chicks running around in your brooder and you go with that Purina Start and Grow Crumble, you can't lose. I know we haven't. So visit their website today, and in 3 easy steps you can get discount coupons for the Purina product that's right for some great nutrition for your animals. I did it myself, and it only took me about 2 minutes. It's absolutely worth it. And to make things easier, we have the hyperlink on our website, BlackYardChickens.com. Just look under product of the month and you'll see the link right there to go and try your Purina Feed Greatness. And through their trial program, they can pair you with the right nutrition and let you try it with your animals and see the results. Now, I can tell you all day how Purina Feed Greatness has been absolutely phenomenal for my chickens, goats, ducks, and rabbits. But you can see for yourself. Go to BlackYardChickens.com. Now let's get back to this week's adventure.
Morning, the sun's shining. I'm feeling good about myself, just bobbing along, and all of a sudden, just and man, I hit the ground quick.
I know you did.
I had no idea what happened, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. And he came back again.
Wow.
And again. So
just dive bombing you.
I've been dive bombed by a hawk. It was more he was trying to scare me away. He didn't sink the claws in.
He was just trying to get out.
That was a crazy one.
Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy.
I've woken up a couple nights with bears outside my tent. That's fun.
Yeah. Black bears, hopefully.
Yeah, black bears.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still have big teeth. So
yeah, they do, in claws.
Yeah.
Yeah, in bodies.
Yeah. If you're hiking in black bear country, hang up your food. That's practice safety.
There we go.
You don't want to be the first one.
At all. At all. Man, all right. So you get back and you're like, your eyes are open to a different, I want to take a different career path, no law school.
Yeah.
So how did you get started with, you jump right into farming from there?
Yeah. So I was working throughout college in restaurants. And so I continued working, basically working in kitchens. And then there was a farm co-op that had started. And they basically took a bunch of local farmers from the area. So I grew up in Carrollton, so west of Atlanta. Yeah. And they had this co-op, and it had started gaining some steam. And they put out an ad for a general manager of the co-op.
Okay.
So I applied for that, and somehow they decided to let me manage all of these farms. And so
for you,
it was. I mean, a lot of like life is you get an opportunity that you're not ready for, and then you kind of do on-the-job learning. And that was what that experience was for me. Like I was managing 20 farms, making sure that their certification was right. And probably talking to farmers or people that are, let's say like outdoors inclined, they may not be the most organized people.
Yeah.
So
they're doing the work and just trying to keep everything alive.
Yeah. and so coordinating those people and trying to make one single organization, that was a huge challenge.
20 different facilities. So 20 different farms, you're over 20 different personalities, setups, systems,
and some of them don't like each other,
right? Of course not.
There's the whole thing. So it was they were like, yeah, you should definitely manage this group of people, and it actually worked really well. So like I learned that you can rely on some folks and some folks to maybe come in and out, but it was great. I mean, it was everything from organizing production. We do like weekly boxes, so we're distributing like 250 boxes of produce every week into Atlanta. So I'd be driving the delivery truck. It was very hands-on. And so that gave me an understanding of like the other side of farming, that it's not just growing the food, it's business you have to distribute it. You have to think of the logistics, you have to have the customer base. And I think it really helped me when I got onto my first farm.
Gotcha. Was it surprising to see all of the certifications and logistics and things of that nature?
Oh yeah. Like you have to go. So the system that this co-op used wasn't certified organic, certified naturally grown. Okay. But you had to, so I was also the certifier. So I would go to each of their farms, kind of inspect their facilities, look at their paperwork. And there's a lot involved with it that you may not think about. Like, where do you store these things? Do you store them at a certain height? What time of year do you use them? Show me when you use these things. And it can get pretty complex.
I bet. I know someone up in East Coast just got raided or something because I guess they were using the word organic, and I don't want to mess the story up, but they were using the word organic. They were feeding a bunch of people, which was great and commendable on them, but they were breaking the rules some way, shape, or form. Yeah, so I can see how it could be very important to have someone
we couldn't call ourselves organic. It had to be certified naturally grown, because that's a protected term. If you sell food as organic, it has to be under the National Organic Program.
Wow. Yeah. I just learned that too myself. I was doing the egg certification class not too long ago, and they were like, you can't say organic. That's a whole nother class and a lot more money. Yeah, right. So I said, we'll just say natural chicken eggs.
And there's a whole world of that. It's like the organic movement was started by smaller farmers, but then it's kind of like become this giant industry, which you want to see it grow, but because of that, it's changed some of the standards. Like I'll give you a really weird example. So if you have, if you grow produce, like a row of produce, weeds are a big problem, especially if you're organic, you can't spray any weed killer. So what a lot of farmers do to kind of get around that is they'll put down mulch. And so a lot of them put down plastic mulch. Okay. And so you'll have this big roll of plastic. Nobody really likes plastic, and you're growing in an organic system, but you're rolling over this plastic on everything. Yeah. And then you're tearing it up at the end of the season, get rid of it. That's okay as far as the organic system goes. Okay. If you put down paper mulch, they're very interested in what's in the paper and if there's anything artificial, because if they want it, this is a biodegradable mulch, you till it back in, and they're like, well, no, it's got some artificial stuff in there, it's not okay. So it's okay to use plastic as long as you bring it up and throw it away. So there's a lot of interesting I don't know, ethical and environmental concerns with some of that stuff. But
yeah, that makes sense, because I would think that if we're using something that's a little more, I guess, nature friendly or earth friendly, which you would think paper is, but it may have a certain chemical they use to wash the paper or make it a certain color, then it's not organic.
Well, and agriculture in general, and you've seen this in the world of chickens, right? If you put too many animals in one place, it's not good for the environment.
Right.
Same thing is true with plants. You know, if you have 5,000 acres of lettuce, that's not a biodiverse place by definition.
Right.
So I think it's a huge challenge because we have millions and millions of people to feed. But we also need to have a concern for the biodiversity and the biomes that we're creating as a result of farming. So
yeah, it's
very intricate. It's very, very complex.
It definitely sounds like it. Fast forwarding, you come out of there. Where's your next stop?
Okay, it's been an interesting journey. So the first farm that I got a job managing is this really interesting. It was a private luxury resort in the making.
Okay.
And it was on the coast. So we went so we were in Carrollton, and so now we're moving south of Savannah.
Okay. Right. So and near the water now.
Yeah. It's right on the water. It's a place called Hampton Island Preserve.
Okay.
Beautiful piece of land. And the idea is sell $1 million lots. And they basically dredged up this area and made a farm, and then a lake surrounded the farm.
Okay.
It was like garden and gun. It was just like the most iconic, idyllic space. But it was marsh muck. It was gumbo.
Yeah.
It was like you could put your fist in the soil and just pull out just slop. So it was a very interesting. So I was hired as the assistant manager.
Okay.
But what was also interesting is at this time it was 2007. So the housing crisis was about to hit.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got caught in that.
Like
I had
many
three houses at the time as a first time trying to do real estate, and we got 3 houses right next to each other, trying to rent those houses out to people. I'm fresh out of college, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to, I guess, dip my hand into the entrepreneurship, and in the meantime, you're playing in the muck.
Yeah, and with some people that had really gotten their hands dirty with that, and there was a lot of money due, and all of a sudden no one was buying, and they were selling very high priced real estate. The short and long of it is they fired the farm manager and said, "You look like a farm manager, and we're not paying you very much money, so you should just hang out here.
Do that job too."
And because I was probably the cheapest employee in that whole, they had chefs, they had equestrian, they had they had a golf course.
Wow. Yeah.
By the time I left, there was like 3 people and all of that infrastructure. So there was a multi-million dollar
structure
house.
for a resort.
There's all this infrastructure that was in, but there's this one house. It wasn't a house, it was a manor, and it was meant to bring guests in, and they just stopped building it at a certain point. So it was like unfinished. It became a raccoon palace.
Oh wow.
So there were like 9 families of raccoons
just living in a mansion.
Like there's someone living in the Robert Mondavi wine cellar. Like it was an interesting, it was like the closest I think I'll ever come to see like what happens if people just go away. The raccoons move in.
Wow,
like,
that sounds like a great movie set now.
it was really cool. But the cool thing about that is because I was just there. I didn't sit around. I had this equipment, I had this infrastructure, and I learned a lot of hard lessons about farming in those 2.5 years, and like what to grow in certain conditions. And it's a very challenging environment because of the humidity and because of the
storms.
Yeah, we didn't have any bad storms that came through, but just like giant rains in a place that doesn't drain. And so I learned a lot of hard lessons about the growing. So the first opportunity I learned kind of the distribution business side. Then I learned kind of some of the ins and outs of the challenges of growing food in a hard environment. Right. And that kind of set me up for the next one.
Right. So what were some of those lessons? Like what were, I know you said you had a lot of marshland, right? And you had really tricky soil, really tricky land. So what were you able to do with that?
So in some ways it was great because it was incredibly nutrient rich, but because it was so boggy, didn't have a lot of drainage or air. And so basically had to learn how to make raised beds.
Okay.
So that then we could grow the food that we wanted to without it having disease problems. And so it was actually really rich soil, but then you had to manipulate it in order to handle it. I mean, there's just insects I've never seen before. Like, there's something called a mole cricket.
Okay.
It's not
never
up here,
heard of it.
but it's about this big, and it just looks like something out of a science fiction movie. And it will come after you've planted your rows of seeds. It'll come through at night and just eat all of them.
All the seeds.
Yeah.
And you come back, no seeds.
There's nothing. So
like a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. He's a cartoon villain, the mole cricket.
Wow. I can imagine, like, I'm seeing, even in my small space, I'm seeing bugs I've never seen. I saw a spider yesterday that looked like it was half scorpion. Like it had like just sharp things coming off the back of it. And I was like, what is that? I'm going to look it up later. Scorpion spider.
Wait, when I was there, you were starting to grow potatoes.
Yes.
You were able to grow them?
Yeah, I grew 4 potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first time. I feel like now I can say I have a light green thumb.
Okay. Everyone says they have a brown thumb, and I'm like, I always say that's great.
Yeah.
Because you need compost to grow stuff.
There you go. Yeah, I got a lot of that. A lot of compost. But that's cool, man. So I was able to do that. So did you have do you like the Dos Equis guy? Most interested man in the world. He marched from Maine to Georgia. He's general managed 20 farms.
I like collecting stories, and so I've been very fortunate to like find myself in places where I can collect interesting stories. So
I like it.
I try not to be the most interesting person because then it gets really dull really quickly.
Nah, but you definitely have stories. So coming from there, what was the next move?
So the next move was I saw that things were not going well there. I'm like, we should probably move. Oh, by the way, I should mention during this whole time, I have a family and a wife. So I got married, went on my honeymoon, left 2 days after my honeymoon to hike the Appalachian Trail.
And she did not go with you.
She did not go with me.
Okay.
She found me at various points. Sometimes to my
did
knowledge.
Did you have a phone?
I did have a phone. Okay. But this is like early phone, so the reception was bad.
Nights and weekends free, maybe.
So everyone on the trail has a trail name.
Okay.
So you get your trail name from someone else. Someone has to dub you something.
Okay, yeah. Right? You can't name yourself.
No,
it's like you can't give yourself a nickname.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so my trail name was Moondog because I had just come off my honeymoon and I was always in the doghouse. I was always okay, I'm walking faster. I promise you, I'm walking as fast as I can.
Trying to get there.
And so all that to say, when I came back from the trail and said, I'm not going to be a lawyer, my wife was like, we're going to be farmers now.
Right.
So I think
you're
that's
full
actually
of surprises.
I think that's the more compelling story. Is like the fact that she didn't leave while I was on the trail, and the fact that she's like, "Okay, let's go be farmers."
You definitely have the one for you.
Yeah, for sure. There's no question. Maybe the only one that would deal with me. I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome, though.
No, and so at that point, I have a couple children, and it's like we need a more secure environment. We lived like 30 minutes away from anything.
Right.
It was a beautiful place to live. Like lived in an old fish camp, had a small boat. It was really cool, but no people.
Got you.
And so we were like, we want to move closer to Atlanta, and so I started looking for other opportunities and found this position. This gentleman who he has this large 2,000 acres east of Atlanta.
Okay.
And it has been a private hunt club for years and years. But the same family's owned the land since 1809. Okay. So it's a place called Burge Plantation, and he wanted to start an organic farm. Okay. And so I had looked around and kind of checked it out, and it was a good opportunity at the time. So it was like, you can start it. We'll help you grow as far as you want to. We'll pay you, and we wanted to run as a standalone business, but they were willing to put the infrastructure in. So that's what we did. We just moved, and it was a really interesting experience. I learned so much
because you got almost 200 years of experience of having land and property.
So there's this whole other element. It was a plantation in the Civil War. So like this. So the couple interesting stories. One is like right next to where I was growing, there's the slave graveyard. Right. There is like the owner, the family graveyard, and then there's the slave graveyard. And they've done a lot of work archaeologically to like determine who's there and do a lot of reconstruction. But like, I'm not a like a touchy-feely esoteric person, but there is an energy. You can. There's a weight to that place, and growing food there, it was always there.
Difficult, I guess. Yeah, I can imagine. I've been to a couple of places and visits, and I felt that. Yeah.
And it's really all over the South, right? That was that's how the South came to prominence.
Right.
That was the model that was created. But to work on a farm where that was the legacy, and that's literally in the soil that you put your hands in. It was, I mean, it was unavoidable to encounter. And that, I think, to the credit of the people that own it, they did a lot of historical work to show what happened and to tell the stories. They had like a little mini museum. And one of the most interesting things to me is during the Civil War, there was a woman in charge of the plantation.
Okay.
And like many of these families, they kind of marry in from places up north.
Yeah.
So this woman actually had come from Maine.
Okay.
And so then the person, the regiment, part of Sherman's battalion that came through, the commander of that was from the same town in Maine. Okay. So they actually spared some of the buildings. They kind of took it easier on her.
Yeah.
But she kept, and they spared the records. Like they usually would just
burn everything
down.
Right.
And so there are detailed agricultural records going back into the early to mid 1800s of what's been planted in the same place that I'm planting. And so that's, to me, really cool, because I can be like, oh.
We've reached that part of the show where we hook you up with some insider information. And this week, it's all about Eaton Pet and Pasture. And I got a 20% discount code for you. As farmers, we know the love and care it takes to raise happy and healthy animals. So choose the best when it comes to bedding, premium cut Timothy hay, and treats for your furry and feathery friends. So if you're looking for super absorbent hemp bedding or nesting pads for your laying ladies, look no further than Eaton Pet and Pasture. Check them out right now at EatonPetandPasture.com, and first-time shoppers get a 20% discount by typing in Reec at checkout. That's REEC at checkout. Now let's get back to another excellent adventure.
This is what happened in this place that I'm farming.
Yeah.
Because I do believe, like, we have this concept of ownership of land, but we're really just tenants.
Yeah.
And how you treat your environment, I think, is really, it's really important. It's really important. It's indicative of how you treat yourself. And so whenever I'm on a piece of land farming, I try to think about that. Who's going to be here after me?
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to see that story kind of move on. Like, oh, this happened. Now I'm here. And then what's going to happen after me?
That's incredible, man. That's a deep story too.
Yeah. And I was there for about 6.5 years and really grew the farm, grew it as an enterprise. We were selling at farmers markets in Atlanta. We were doing CSA, which is community supported agriculture. So we had basically shareholders in our farm. Okay. And we would deliver produce as a part of that program. So
I'll just excuse my ignorance.
No,
people would basically kind of buy into and invest into this farm, and in return, they would receive products. From it.
It's more considered now like a subscription service.
Okay,
but at the same
like
time,
a membership.
We were saying, like, you're buying the success of this farm. You don't own the farm per se, right? But like, we are selling you. We may not produce anything, but you're basically buying a future in our farm.
Gotcha.
I guess it's probably a more accurate way of saying it. And sometimes, we would have, we had a couple of situations. We had like straight line winds. We had all these hoop houses that we had built. So they're like unheated greenhouses. You grow in the soil, but they're like 30 by 100 feet. And they're amazing. And it allows you to grow food through the winter. Well, we had the snow come through and cave in 2 of them. Just horrible. And then we had some straight line winds come through one spring and just knock 7 of them down. And that's, but the cool thing is the people that were part of the CSA came into support, like helped us clean it up. And so it was a whirlwind, but we built a successful farming business, which I'm really, really proud of, because that's not an easy thing to do.
No, I hear the stories, and this is what this is for, so people can get a different perspective of the different journeys, and you got like 10 of them.
Just keep walking.
Yeah. So coming from there, you said 6-7 years there. Were you guys also living on the property at this time? Because I can imagine 2,000 acres.
We were living in what was the Helps house. Actually, which is like a very small little shotgun house. My wife likes to joke there was like literally armadillos living underneath the house, and it was not like but it was also really cool because I could walk out and go to work. And they also used the space as it's like a wedding event space. So like every Saturday we had a free concert. So I looked at it.
Yeah. I'll just walk over to the reception area, get a buffet.
You just have to like electric slide and you're okay.
That's it. Right. And that is a pretty neat story, man. There's so many layers to it. And I want to go down a rabbit hole about your stay there, but we got to I got to keep on task.
I'm going to try to pull you down a rabbit hole every turn.
Yeah. Man, that is incredible. Did they also have livestock there?
Yeah, we had chickens, but there was no active livestock on the farm. Yeah,
gotcha.
I brought in the chickens. It was a hunting preserve. So
yeah. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Here's a quick rabbit hole. One of the things that you hunt for is quail.
Okay.
And quail is native to Georgia, but because of habitat destruction and different predators being introduced, they're not around. They're in South Georgia, but they're not around here anymore.
Not pretty prevalent.
And so they would have a pen of these quail. They'd bring the quail in, they'd hand feed them. And then before the hunt came, they would release these quail. First time they've ever been out in nature. So they're basically like chickens.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like hunting chickens.
Yeah.
So they release the first time this quail ever flies, it gets shot.
That's terrible.
But it is like, I can see it from all the sides, right? I can see it like, oh, well, people want to have this experience and it's a traditional experience, but I always thought it was kind of like hunting chickens, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this quail has no idea what's coming for him. You've been feeding me for weeks.
Okay, I'm out of here. Oh, I can fly. Oh, not anymore.
Take off. It's over with. The long good night. Oh, man. So leaving there, what's the next stop?
Yeah, so we had done that for a period of time. Kids were getting older. Was really thinking about moving back into town.
Right.
My wife had taken a job in town, so she was already driving. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be on a farm, I wanted to kind of like create the farm experience, because I started realizing the value of the farm is not just the commodity.
Okay.
We lower the value, cheapen the value of food to its absolute lowest.
Yeah.
And if you go into the store, you're like, how can I get this for less? Because we don't have a relationship with it. And I wanted to have a place where I could allow people to establish that relationship and understand the value of food.
I definitely get it. Because I absolutely 100% understand now, because I'm raising things that create food.
Right. Exactly. And so, and I also understand the commodity side of it.
Yeah.
If you're growing, if you have to supply millions of people with food, you have to make it a mechanical, you have to make it a machine. Yeah. And so, but to me, the important thing is that people have that relationship, and that's where the value is. Right. Yeah. So I wanted to do like a agricultural experience, like an ecotourism experience, and it wasn't going to work on that property because it was a private hunt club. Yeah, and so
you might get shot.
I did get shot, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I got shot a couple times. Well, it's just shot fall, so it's not, it actually sounds harder than it is. But if you shoot a shotgun up in the air, little BBs go everywhere. So those kind of rained down on me a couple times. But I can say I've been shot.
You've been shot, and your name is Natural Born Tiller. So you're all the way official. I got.
But yeah, so decided didn't want to do that anymore. Also, like I had missed every weekend for 6 years. So my kids were going to soccer games. I was missing them. I was missing a lot of activities and social opportunities. And so I was like, let's try something different. And so that's when I was sweating in a field. Like, okay, it's going to be called Natural Born Tillers. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something where I like take the knowledge that I have and help share it with people.
Because you got a lot of it.
I've learned a lot. I've failed a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's how you learn. Yeah. You won't fail that way again.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's okay to fail as long as you don't fail the same way multiple times.
Right.
But so I started out just doing farm consulting. So like people that wanted to start farms, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe think about this or set this up as your infrastructure. So I did that for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years. And it was going fine, but I was saying no. I was actually the wrong kind of consultant. I was telling people not to start farms more than I was telling people to start farms, which is not really what you're supposed to do. Right. It's like, I don't think you're going to work. You're going to lose a lot of money. And And so
that's because you've seen it. Like, you've been there firsthand. So you're telling them from your experience firsthand.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And some folks, it's like, yes, you have the runway, you have this objective. I can help you with it.
Yeah.
But what happened, and totally unexpected, is some of my old farmers market customers were like, oh, well, you're in Atlanta. Will you come put a garden here? And I didn't have a space to grow at that point. And so I was kind of like needing a place to grow food. And so like we had one of my friends was an executive producer at Adult Swim. Yeah. And he's like, oh, we're right here on William Street. This is just like this space in front of our building is just pine straw. Come and build a garden. And we did that. And the employees responded really positively. They're like, oh my God, we have a place to go outside now. There's like blueberries. It's like we have our own little paradise. And it just got my wheels turning. It's like one of the things I think from a business perspective is there's a Yogi Berra baseball quote, hit them where they ain't. That's how you're successful in baseball. You hit them where they ain't. And so I'm like, where can I put this information that it isn't? And driving through the city, I had this like kind of realization, and I saw everybody in a car. And I thought, man, everyone is going from their home bubble to their work bubble and their car bubble. And no one is interacting.
No one's living.
No one's experiencing. They're just passive. Right. And I was like, well, I know gardens can do something about that. They can make a tangible impact on your outlook of the world. Right. And so where can I put these gardens and get paid to do them and take care of them that can achieve that result? And that's kind of been, that was the big aha. It's like, oh, I could put a garden there. I could put a garden there. What about at an apartment complex or a nursing home or a corporate campus
where you can change the energy of the people there and the vibe of the land?
Because we all are built in with 25 to 30,000 years of agricultural knowledge. Like we wouldn't be here if our ancestors didn't learn how to grow food, didn't learn how to be in touch with the seasons, didn't learn how to kind of be part of those rhythms. And then in 2 generations, we've lost it all. And I feel like that's a huge reason why we experience this amount of alienation in our age, because we have all this technology. It's given us all the answers, but we still have this like, oh, I need to be part of something. And so I feel like we're not going to be the whole solution to that, but we give people an opportunity to put their hands back in the soil, or even if it's like a passing thing, right? Like I'm walking by a garden that's changing every day. I still have that small connection. And I think it's really important.
It is. I mean, it is just getting people to get outside, or to like you said, they're going from their house to the job or school in that car bubble. For them just to slow down and say, oh, wow, look at that. That right there can be life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been like, I'll be busy, but I'll go out to the gardens. Like I'll go out to our pollinator garden. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that bug before. And I'll just be standing still looking for bugs. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. And so I always think like you need a big why and a little how. And this is my little how to solve that big why.
Gotcha. I like that. A big why and a little how.
Yeah.
I like that. Now that's cool. So that's where it was born or grown.
Yeah. Or tilled. I don't know.
Tilled. Right. So tell me about that. When you walk into a place, what are the things you're evaluating? Like if I want you to come here and say, hey, Corey, we want a garden in the front of our space and we don't have a lot of space, what do you kind of look for?
Yeah, so it's the same thing with any garden. It's sunlight, number one, and then water, access to water, and soil, and then some other things outside of that. So like pest protection and that type of thing. But mostly, we're in a city in the trees, so sunlight is the biggest barrier to success. If you're going to grow vegetables, they need constant sunlight, basically. There's very few shade resistant vegetables. There's a lot of things you can grow but not eat.
Gotcha.
So I look at the sun first, and then also for our business, what we do, the way I like to think of it is our maintenance is our programming. So if you hire a landscaper, so we only work for commercial properties, so we don't go to people's individual houses, but we work in like office buildings, apartment complexes, things of that nature. And the value add for us is that we engage with people.
Yeah.
So we are heads up.
Yeah.
And we will stop you in your tracks like, hey, check this out. Or, hey, do you want a tomato? And that's very unlike the landscaping industry.
Yeah, but that brings that personal feel you were talking about a few minutes ago back, where if I'm growing my food, people are willing to pay more at farmers market because they think they are meeting the person growing the food. Right. And then they have a value to that person, which makes them want to feel okay.
Yeah. And from a property owner's perspective, if you can have a landscaper that has their head down that you'll never talk to, that's
they come
a loud
and
blower, and then it's like it basically is like an annoying insect, right? And I think that lends to that same.
Spring has sprung, and guess what? That means chick season is here. So if you're looking to start your flock, add to your flock, or maybe add a few ducks, chickens, or geese, My Pet Chicken is the website for you. And if you're just getting started, they even have a tool to help pick the perfect poultry for your backyard flock. Check them out today at mypetchicken.com. Right now, you can get $10 off when you join the SMS Club. mypetchicken.com. Raise fun, happy, and healthy chickens from live poultry to coops and supplies. My Pet Chicken has everything you need to start, grow, and maintain your backyard flock. Shop today. mypetchicken.com.
Non-interactive nature. Like you're outside and you're like, oh, I can't listen to this. I need to go back inside. Or like this person just offered me like, oh, he let me pick some blueberries. Yeah. This is really cool. But some people do not want to talk to you, and that's okay too. And so that goes back to selling at farmers markets. You learn if you have 400 customers in a day, which ones want to tell you their life story, and which ones, or it just goes back to like getting a hitchhike, like that person does not
they
really.
don't want to I don't think I'm gonna ride with that person,
right?
That doesn't blink.
Exactly. He shaved all the hair on his body.
I don't think I didn't need to know that, and then I'm not getting in your truck, sir. Right. But yeah, so man, that is a really cool transition story. And now you're doing this, and you're adding a value to people, not just the people that are hiring you to do this or soliciting your company, but also the people that just pass by. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great passive thing. And then the third benefit is we're creating an improved environment. So everything that we grow using organic techniques, which includes creating some sort of habitat for insects.
Right.
And so whether it's a large pollinator garden or small, like we can create these spaces that over time you can see ecology building up.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me excited. It's like, so we're doing good for people, we're doing good for the planet, and we're doing good for our customers.
Yeah.
So everybody wins.
We talked about this button. That is when you hit the button.
Let's go.
That's it. Man, that is awesome. So with this, also, you have media. So you guys are talking to other tillers and growers, and you talk to me. So you know what I mean? So that's how we met. Tell me about that and how you got into that space.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that same thing, like do something you're passionate about and don't try to predict where it's going to end. So like one of our clients is the CDC. And paradoxically, during COVID, there was no one at the CDC. So they hired us to be on site growing this food, and all of a sudden no one's there. And we were brainstorming. It's like, well, we still want to fulfill this contract. We still want to help your employees connect with the outdoors. How can we do that? Oh, let's try. Maybe we'll do a monthly video, like a garden how-to.
And that was needed then.
Yeah.
People were in the house. They needed something to do.
Yeah. And so that's what we started doing. We just started, we put out a curriculum, and then we would film on our little phones, the very low tech, just a couple ideas about gardening. And so now we've done that for 4 years. And we've kind of like built out season after season. And so we're like, we got to talk about chickens. All right, we got to talk to Reec, because people will really identify with your story. And so it's been great for me because learning production, learning video, learning that whole world. But then also meeting new people and hearing their stories is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, you say you start with a phone, and then 4 years later, you guys are shooting drone footage. He's got these DJI cameras and all types of stuff he's bringing out. So it's awesome, man, to see the growth. So I just want to congratulate you on that too, on that journey. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really interested. I've learned a lot from you. You are really good with media. And so this is something I think it's important to always try to be a student, right? And always pick up on things. And I love how you tell stories and get people engaged with that, because that's what interests people.
Yeah.
And so we're going to up our game with that. We're going to try to do more on social media. but I think it's important to tell the story any way you can and have people resonate with it. So
yeah, it's true, you guys. So I think this is why I love this space. It's like you said, you were motivated by something you saw from me, but I'm extra motivated by something I saw from you guys. Like now I want to get into planning. I want to get into tilling and whatever the word I'm supposed to use. I want to grow stuff, right?
Cultivate.
So
you're going to cultivate.
I want to cultivate. So now I'm seeing these, I'm watching the videos and I'm like, wow, I think I could, get my hands dirty per se.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There is no gatekeeping in that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, we all come from that background of tending to plants and tending to animals. And I think that word is important. Tending,
yes.
It's not.
I'm a chicken tender.
Yeah. I'm sure you've used that term.
I have.
But no, I think a lot of us think of it as production or processing, or I'm growing this product and these mechanical words. But the word tend means that you oversee, and that you take care of, and that you're thinking long term. And to me, I like to think of myself, when I stopped farming and went into, this is more gardening, I had the kind of a crisis of consciousness. Like, oh, I'm not a real farmer anymore because I'm not producing food. And I really thought a lot about it. And it's like, you're a farmer if you produce food for anyone else but yourself.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if you feed 2,000 people or you feed two people.
Yeah.
And with that comes a responsibility. And that responsibility is to not only feed the people and get the food out of the ground, but to tend to support the systems that are doing that. So, and
the system, the agricultural system as well, like the environmental system, that's, you're supporting that too.
Exactly.
That is good stuff.
Yeah, because there's a ready-made solution for anything, but if you keep doing that, what kind of system do you have ultimately? So.
Yeah. When you said no gatekeepers, I like that. I got into this space and I've noticed that. And when I start talking about chickens, or if somebody's looking confused in Tractor Supply, and I say, hey, what are you trying to do? Yeah. And they mention, I said, oh, I tried this and maybe it'll work for you, or vice versa. If I'm looking confused somewhere, somebody will say, hey, what you got? And then we start talking, and next thing you know, we're in a full length, blown out conversation about solutions.
Right. Yeah. And I think that because it's hard work.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're willing to do the work, then that's good enough.
Yeah.
And I think it creates a community.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it. So yeah, I would definitely agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the next step? Like where are you going next on this journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've been very conscious about growing my company slowly because I want to learn the lessons early. So so we are slowly expanding into other apartment complexes and kind of going back to that environmental thing, and also just following the curiosity. I love biking.
Okay.
And so one of the things I want to do is expand to 7 or 8 different apartment complexes that are on or around the Beltline. Okay. And only service that with our e-bike that I bought for our.
So now you can do both.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You gotta merge the hobbies is the idea. So
that makes a lot of sense.
So we're on the verge of that. We've got 3, and I think we're going to add another couple, and then we're just going to be riding bikes to take care of those. And so that raises awareness about what we do. We get to be outside. Again, it's also like that bubble thing, right? Yeah. When I'm on my bike and I stop in an intersection, I'll talk to the people around me or have a comment, and I just see people in their cars like losing their minds.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not possible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You have to have cars just the way it is. But I really like the idea of being able to take this connection idea and spread it around throughout Atlanta, and as much on my bike as possible.
Corey wants you to stop and smell the blueberries.
That's right. And eat a couple too.
There you go. There we go. If you can go back and tell yourself one thing before you start that trip to Maine, from Maine, what do you tell Corey?
Well, I would tell him to bring mosquito repellent
and hawk repellent.
I didn't do that, and that I regretted that.
Okay.
No, I would say like keep walking. You don't know what the next horizon's going to hold, but if you stop, then you'll never know.
Yeah.
And so I would say like that's kind of been my thing. Is like I'm not afraid to fail. Like this whole thing could blow up. And that's fine because I've had so many experiences. I've met you, I've met amazing people. And so I think like, just keep doing it. Keep moving forward. Yeah.
I like that. And this is a guy that didn't have per se, like you didn't have a farming background or anything, but look at you now.
No.
So if anybody is out there and they're like, I want to start a garden, but I don't know if I can do it, man, just take a look. This guy's a walking testament of what can be done.
Yeah. I mean, there are so few experts in this world. And even if they're experts, all farming is local.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely contingent on your local environment. And you get to learn about that. And I did learn from a lot of people. Like that goes back to the community thing. Like when I was farming out at Burge,
Mm-hmm.
I found the old timers that have beautiful gardens, and I talked to them, and they tell me you're screwing this up or you're doing this wrong. And I was like, all right, okay,
right.
But yeah, anyone can grow food,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's just like there's a lot of people that think that they can't, and it's not even that there's I see this in music too. Like, am I an artist?
Yeah.
And you're an artist if you create something that resonates with you.
Right.
You're a gardener if you grow food. Full stop. You don't have to be gardening. You don't win.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're never going to get the blue ribbon.
Yeah.
No one's going to be like, oh, you're a gardener now.
Yeah.
Right. You're never going to get like a trophy or an award. You just screw up a little bit less every year.
There you go.
And so I think you should have that mindset. It's kind of like raising children.
Yeah.
Hopefully you just screw up a little bit less
every year. And then they are better than you were by the time they get to there. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That was 47 minutes and it felt like 10. That was crazy. So this has been a very informative episode. For one, man, we appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. All of our time is, but it's definitely, man. So thank you.
No, it's an honor to come out here and talk to you. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we got to have a meeting with the city of Austell. We got to see if we can get natural born tillers somewhere at that beautiful thread mill complex to see what we can do.
Let's grow something.
There it is. You heard it here first. It's been another episode of Excellent Adventures.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Eggcellent Adventures, powered by BlackYard Chickenz.
Now, if you think you want to raise your own backyard flock, here's the site for you, BlackYardChickens.com. We make entertaining videos about raising baby chicks from scratch. You know what I mean by from scratch, right? Or maybe you want to learn how to take care of your own big chickens or hens and get those fresh eggs, building a coop or buying a coop, having the necessary things inside that coop to get great egg production. You'll learn a lot of the neat tricks I've picked up along the way from other chicken enthusiasts, and you can get pretty eggs just like those. So follow us on social media and check us out on our YouTube channel.